Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's going to be comparing a fully loaded Nissan Frontier PRO-4X to a Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-Road with the iForce Max. Before we get into this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Nissan here in Orem and the Toyota here in Orem for giving me some time with both of these trucks. Link to both their websites in the description down below. Let's get into it. Powering the Tacoma is a hybrid turbo 2.4 liter 4-cylinder that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 22 around town, 24 on the highway, with power outputs being 326 horsepower and then 465 pound-feet of torque. Now powering the Frontier is a 3.8 liter V6 naturally aspirated that goes through a 9-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is stated to be 16 around town, 20 on the highway, with power outputs being 310 horsepower and 281 pound-feet of torque. Before I move forward with this comparison, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Now, both of these trucks have off-road packages from the factory. They also have quite a few options. You notice that both the trucks have fog lights. You can see recovery points there on the Tacoma. We've got much more prominent recovery points on the Frontier, but you have got the fog lights. You've got underbody protection on both the trucks. Now the Tacoma has this big air dam, and that's actually part of the reason why it's able to get such good fuel economy. Yeah, it's the hybrid, but it's also aero stuff like the air dam. If you remove the air dam, you actually lose quite a bit of MPG. I know that because I removed the air dam on my Land Cruiser. But anyways, there's the front ends. Now when it comes to tire and wheel setup, the Tacoma does have slightly bigger tires, so 265/70/18 versus 265/70/17. But you can see with the wheels in the Frontier, I think look a little bit cooler than the Tacoma wheels, but they both have really cool looking wheels. Now you've got your iForce Max badge there on the Tacoma. You've got these big chunky fender flares, but the Frontier also has chunky fender flares as well. And you can see the slight height difference with the trucks. Again, a big part of that's the tires, and then that continues into the back. You'll notice with the Tacoma, it kind of has like a wide body, whereas this is kind of more of like a standard body in terms of the appearance. So here's a side profile with the Tacoma, and then here's a side profile with the Frontier. Now this leads us into the bed section of the review. So you've got protection with both of the trucks. You guys can see the sliders here for the cargo tie downs and all of that. Protection on the tailgate as well. And this is really easy to lift up. I like the PRO-4X plaque there on the back. Overall, the Frontier I think looks really good. Now the Tacoma has a composite bed, but then it also has liner on this one so that it's not so slippery. But yeah, plenty of space here. You've got an outlet there with this, and then a little bit lighter with the tailgate. And when it comes to the overall specs, I mean, you guys can let me know which truck you like more. I think they both look good, but I think the Frontier actually, seeing them next to each other, I think it looks a little bit more classically beautiful for a truck, as weird as that sounds. Now I really dig the Frontier interior here, really nice materials throughout. And look at these seats as well, really cool with the style. We'll compare the space of both the trucks. They're not going to be too spacious, both mid-size. Got some USB ports. The glass back here is manual for the opening operation. Decent headroom though. Now you notice the Tacoma has kind of a much more basic looking door panel, and we've got cloth seats. You can get fancier seats, but once you guys see the prices, you'll understand why I picked out these two trucks. There's less space in the Tacoma. I can't even fit behind there. The Frontier is tight, but I could at least fit. Got some USB ports back there, outlet and all of that. Headroom though, at least in the Tacoma, is good. And that leads us to the front door panel, where you can see again with the nice soft touch all of our window controls. Blind spot monitoring with the mirrors on the Frontier. We have 1,040 pounds of payload. And then you guys can see here with the seat, got a nice trim all over. Now being a PRO-4X, we do have hill descent control. We've got a rear locking differential. You can turn off stability control if you want. Manual steering wheel. And pop it on. Got this partially analog, partially digital gauge cluster, so you can see vehicle information, but it has a nice look to it. Love the trim on the steering wheel, feels very rugged. And then we do have a 360 camera system with this as well. Bunch of analog controls down below. Traditional 2-wheel drive, 2-speed transfer case. You've got heated seats, sorry, 2-stage is what I meant to say there. Phone charging pad, also shifter for the 9-speed by the way. Decent center console. We've got a sunroof with this one as well. Now taking a look at the front door panel with the Tacoma, you do get some soft touch here. Got all of our window controls, blind spot monitoring with the mirrors. Payload capacity on this is 1,200 pounds, so a little bit more payload. Again, cloth seats with the Tacoma. They are power adjustable. You've got auxiliary switches from the factory, which is really nice. So you can add items, popping it on, full digital with the gauge cluster. I like to trim the steering wheel with the Tacoma. Nice perforated trim. So both of them have pretty cool steering wheels. This one just has a regular backup camera. Big screen though, that's for sure. And then just single zone climate on this. We do have heated seats and a heated steering wheel, phone charging pad. Traditional two-wheel drive, two-speed transfer case with a rear locking differential. This does have crawl control, multi-train select. The traction control system in the Toyota is going to be more advanced than the Nissan. Got storage in the center console, nice trim on the top. We've got a sunroof, and then the rear glass is power for the operation. So the Toyota stickers for over $55,000. That Frontier's equipped stickers for just under $51,000. So even though they might not be comparable spec to spec, when it comes to pricing, the Tacoma is actually quite a bit more expensive. It's got that Toyota tax on it. Well, let us set off in the Frontier first. And something you notice right off the bat with the Frontier, if you've been driving modern cars for quite some time, it has hydraulic steering, which I love. You know, I know a lot of people are all about the electric power steering, and there's tons of benefits to electric power steering, but man, I miss hydraulic. I really do. Every single time I drive a car with hydraulic, I'm like, man, I wish more cars could have a hydraulic rack, because the extra weight that you get and the feedback that you get, it's just, I don't know, especially in a truck, I feel like I'm driving like a real, like, masculine vehicle, right? Now, the 9-speed's great with getting this right where it needs to be in the power band. The 3.8 liter is a great engine. It's got lots to pull from. It's not identical in feel to Toyota's 4.0 V6, but it's got a lot of similarities, actually. Big displacement, NA V6, you gotta love it. And it actually has more power than the 4.0 V6 anyways that Toyota used to have in the Tacoma at one point, and then they had in the 4Runner for a long time. Man, this thing really does have great torque, and the suspension's pretty darn comfortable. Like, man, let me tell you, Nissans are incredibly underrated, in my opinion. Incredibly underrated. The trucks, at least, right? Because it's like everyone else is turbo this, turbo that. I mean, that Tacoma is a perfect example. Turbo hybrid. And this thing's like no hybrid. Oh, I thought I could get through here. Dang nabbit. Anyways. And this is like unapologetically just naturally aspirated, big displacement V6. Like, what more could you ask for? And this is a simplistic truck, right? It's got Bilstein shocks that, the Tacoma actually has Bilstein shocks too, but very simple system there. Traditional 2-speed transfer case. Like, everything about this truck is old school and simplistic. And that's why it's so charming. That's why it shocks me. I mean, actually, it doesn't shock me that people don't like this anymore, don't buy this. Because modern people are just soft, weak, pathetic. I'll say it. I'm a modern person. And because of that, they just want, like, everyone just wants luxury, just so much luxury. They don't care about ruggedness anymore. Man, this has got some ruggedness. It's got some charm. Has personality. It's a great truck, and the value's just killer. It really is. I mean, it's so hard to beat the value. In conclusion, the Nissan Frontier, although more old school, has enough modern stuff like the 9-speed, like the 360 camera, that it's extremely usable. I think that this is one of the best, I think it's probably the best midsize pickup truck for sale right now, because everything else is just too synthetic, too modernized, where there's so much stuff that can go wrong with them. This, I feel like, has the perfect blend of old school with modernity. So, with that being said, let's pop into the Tacoma and see how it compares. Oh, Tacoma. So the first thing I want to say, setting off, is I looked up the fuel tank size difference. Not as big as I thought it would be, but the Frontier is 21 gallons. This has 18.2. I think both of them should have like 24. I think 24 for a mid-size is good. I think great would be like 26. Just a couple more gallons. So right off the bat, right, you've got more low-end torque. You feel it. You really do feel it. It's a pretty big difference. But you don't have the same response that the Frontier has. The Frontier has that NA V6 just boom, like switch turned on response. So I think that's a very important distinction. Now, aside from that, seats are actually more comfortable in the Frontier. I think the interior in this might be a little bit bigger than the Frontier. Got good space in both of them. Like I said, the space behind the seat in the Frontier is definitely better. Everything feels more like modern synthetic in this, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just different. It's like the steering's very light, so that's kind of its own thing. Why are you walking in the middle of the road, lady? What are you doing? Anyways, yeah, the Frontier has that kind of like old school rugged truck feel. This, on the other hand, yeah, definitely feels modern with the damping and everything, and it's different. I guess to conclude things for this comparison, I think when you look at things on paper, the Tacoma is going to come out on top because it's got more horsepower, more torque, better fuel economy. The fuel tank isn't that much smaller, so the fuel range is probably going to be pretty similar with both of the pickup trucks. Better traction control system. But then when we take into account the money and just what you feel from the seat of your pants, the Frontier feels like more of an experience. Again, it feels like you're driving an old school truck, and it's not something that gets tiring. It's just the experience of driving the Frontier, and I really enjoy it. I like the old school feel. That's why I have such a huge love affair with the 5th generation 4Runner, right? I like old school. So it's kind of like, you know, heart versus brain. The heart says Frontier. The brain says, okay, well, if I was going to be doing off-roading and this and that, the Tacoma, better traction control system, you know, crawl control, all of that kind of stuff. I've got that going for me. But then also, like, the brain says money. Money's important, and I could get a $45,000 Frontier Pro-4X that's identical to this. So I could save myself $10,000, which is a boatload of money, and have a really nice new truck. So I think in this comparison, because of the pricing difference, I think the Frontier kind of takes the win. I know a lot of people will disagree with me because, well, Toyota cultists. I own 2 Toyotas, so I guess I'm technically a Toyota cultist as well. But like, I look at value, and I think the value is definitely with Nissan. But the crazy thing is, people aren't buying the Nissans. Like, it baffles me. Like, the Titan wasn't selling that well, and it's like, that's the last old school pickup truck, and nobody was buying it. It has great warranty, 100,000 mile warranty. And then the Frontier, it's like last old school midsize pickup truck. Nobody's buying them, and it's like, it just shows you that I'll just end the video with this. I think that people's, I don't know, I just don't think people are in the right mindset with vehicles. They just want like nice, new, and shiny rather than something that makes sense for the long term. That's my 2 cents.